Hi again folks, how are you all doing? This is a Hornby Battle of Britain class Winston Churchill that was sent to me by Duncan. He told me that this is a non-runner and he hasn't been able to get it going. Let's turn on the power, see what happens. Nope, not a sausage. Deed as a dodo. And there's nothing on the ammeter. Let's shove it into the shed and we'll see what's up. Alrighty dokie, let's get a look at this Hornby Battle of Britain, Winston Churchill. I did swither about whether to feature this in a video or just do it in the shed, but I think when it's a fairly newish locomotive, in particular a locomotive driven model, and it's a non-runner like this and there's nothing on the ammeter, it appears to be completely dead, it's always interesting to I think feature it in a video to see what's up. I mean, I suspect this has probably got some kind of electrical continuity issue between the pickups and the motor, or there's possibly a DCC socket in the tender that's blown or something. It'll be something simple, a model of this age. I very much doubt, for a Hornby model anyway, I very much doubt it's going to have a burnt out motor or something. And the fact there was nothing on the ammeter kind of tells me it's just a continuity issue. So we shall see. The locomotive is in very good condition apart from the speedometer. As is so often the case with these, it's broken and you can't get replacements and it's not really possible to repair them. I think we'll just snip these broken pieces away, just leave the crank in place. But otherwise, it's in pretty good nick. A little plug into the tender, so I suspect there is DCC hoogery in there, probably with a blanking plate. So first of all, we'll unplug the tender. Come on, out you come. There we go. Unplug that. We shall unscrew it there. And that removes that. We've got a screw there and that'll be clipped in at the back. Right, that lifts out. Yeah, it's clipped at the back. There we go. So there's this little circuit board on the pony truck, which all the wires are soldered onto. Normally the wires just come from the plug all the way to the motor and the pickups, but yeah, it's like they're joined on there. Haven't seen that before. It's just another potential point of failure as far as I'm concerned. First thing to do is to test the motor. Now we've got it disconnected from the tender, we'll apply power to the motor directly and see if it goes. Touch that on there, that on there, yeah. So it's not the motor. The wires on top of the motor here are both pretty squashed. I think they've been pressed against the body, so they could be broken. So that could be the problem. Yeah, we need to check these wires. Then this is going to lift off. Yep. There. That's okay. And that's okay. I'm actually starting to suspect the tender, because if I'm getting continuity between the pickups and this little joiner board on the pony truck, there's possibly not an issue with this. So I don't want to get myself involved into a wild goose chase looking for a problem there when the problem is in here. So we'll need to get a look in here. We'll get this coupling off, because there's usually a screw. Oh no, there isn't. Okay, 2 screws there. It's probably clipped at the back. because power will be routed from the locomotive back to the tender to run through the DCC socket, and then from the DCC socket back to the motor. So the locomotive won't run without the tender connected. So if there's a fault in the tender, like a burnt out DCC socket or something, you've got a non-runner. Come on. Do I have to undo these? Maybe I do. Nope. Undo this. There are no more screws to undo. Nope. Why do you have screws and then have it clipped together? There. So there's the 8-pin DCC socket and the blanking plate. All looks okay. Oh, hello. So is that wire supposed to connect to that? I think it is. Oh, there's the red wire out. Yep, that's the problem. So this black wire is supposed to be soldered to there, and that is supposed to be soldered to there. It's just come off. So that appears to be the problem. That's going to be a bit of a fiddly business. So yeah, bad connections in the tender. We'll get them soldered up this afternoon. I'm going to go and get myself a spot of lunch, take the dugs out, and we'll come back to this later. Okay, so lunch had, dugs walked, just been having a cup of tea and a ginger nut. So, just before I switch the camera on there, I've put the locomotive back together. I had a quick look at the axles just to see if they were all okay, and they're pretty clean, well lubricated. Everything seems to be as it should be, so there's no point in pulling it all apart just for the sake of it. Those pickups, if they're all making contact with the wheels, leave well alone. You don't want to pull them out because you could end up mangling them a bit. So yeah, that all looks fine. I'll probably shift this wire because it's getting crushed on the top of the motor. And we've got that broken speedo, which there isn't really much we can do about. But that all looks fine. So we'll sort the wires out on this. So what I'm going to try to do, I've already fed this piece of wire through this bit of insulation. So I'm going to trim it and try and solder it onto there, and then the insulation will come back down, and we'll do the same with a red wire for this side. So let's just pull that through just now, and we'll trim a bit off that. Trying to do it with the broken end of the wire, it's not really long enough, so I'm going to add an extra piece of wire in, and it's just going to be easier to solder to this suppressor or capacitor, whatever you want to call it. If I just pull that back so far, and then we'll see if we can wind it around. It's going to be very fiddly, but I think it'll be doable. I think if we get some solder onto that and then trim it, don't want any bits of wire sticking out. Might do it to make sure that two wires don't touch each other, otherwise it's going to short. That heat shrink has shrunk. Had a funny feeling that might happen. But pull that down. Yeah, I think that'll work. There we go. Strip that. Okay. Push them up. Right, there we go. We've got the red and black wires attached. So let's feed that under there. Oh wow, this is just silly. And there's that red one off. Right, I'm having a bit of a nightmare here. So the wires are popping off this tiny little board. You know, I think I'm probably going to have to get this little board out. So I'm just wondering if there's holes through. Yeah, I think we're going to have to dismantle this. Because I think I need to get this little board out and resolder the wires properly. They're just popping off. Of course, it's connected to the plug socket. That's not working. It's just too fiddly. I think I'm going to try drilling that solder out. Alright, so the black wire connected up. So I switched the camera off for a bit there just so I could crack on with this because it's not very good video subject material, just soldering little bits of wire together. But I've got all the wires soldered to this little board and spliced in some extra wire to connect those loose ones up. So pop this back in. And there we go. Now put that planking plate back in. I didn't really need to take it out. So in theory, if I plug this together, it should work. Pop that in. And let's have a go. Okay, turn on the power slowly, and away it goes. So we've solved the problem. It's a tight fit to that tender. Right, we'll give the wheels a clean. We need to get a spot of glue on the back of this cylinder. It's very loose. Sorts that. And there we go. That should be that. Okay, power on. Slight ticking sound, I think it's the speedometer. So I was going to just snip off both parts of this speedometer. I've snipped off the piece that was attached to the crank because it was just dangling down here. It looked silly. But this piece, you know, it does sort of reach across to the end of the crank there. So I've glued it in that position. So it kind of looks as if it's still connected when viewed from side on. I mean, I could just snip it off altogether, but I thought I'll just glue it and leave it like that. So there we go, that's this Battle of Britain Winston Churchill sorted out. Let's pull it out the shed. So there we are, that's Duncan's Winston Churchill running again. Just a couple of broken wires in the tender. Not easy to repair those wires are so thin, and when the connections to the plug socket came loose, it really did become a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. I need to get a different tip from a soldering iron for that type of very small soldering, but it's it's very difficult for us older blokes with iffy eyesight and shaky hands. But managed to sort it and get this running again. There wasn't anything else needing done to it. It's all in good order, apart from that Speedo cable, but less said about those things the better. So I shall get this packed up and sent back to Duncan. Catch you later, folks.